Get the Voice Healing MP3 at JasonGallant.ca.
So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about spirituality and life, okay? So a lot of people mix teaching up. They've got, the wrong teaching being applied to the wrong situation, which is why it's very difficult to write a scripture or a book or even make a video on any one subject and then say, okay, this is the absolute truth to all of life, okay? Unless I take it to a place that's very complex that most people don't understand what I'm saying, and they're like, oh, I don't even know how to apply this in my life, Jason. What the heck did you just say? Okay? So I'm going to try to be as simple as I can with you. Okay? And today what I'm going to talk about is abusive situations. Or situations that are not right for you. What should you do in these cases? Should you leave? Should you stay because you're supposed to be a nice person? All this kind of stuff. So I want to be very clear. I am not teaching you anything to do with being a nice person. I'm not teaching you how to be religious. I'm not teaching you how to hold on to ideals. I'm not teaching you the right and wrongs of life. Okay? So I'm a spiritual teacher, but I'm not teaching you any of these things. That's what a religious person might teach you. That's what a person that wants you to hold a certain idea about yourself, a certain limitation, and to hold on to that structure and to keep acting a role. A person that wants you to act a role will give you those types of rules, okay? But I'm doing something different. I'm freeing your heart, and the heart cannot be faked. You cannot fake your heart. You can't fake being in the heart. That's like a blind man faking to see a rainbow. You just can't fake it. It's just not happening. I'm here to teach you how to find a deeper experience inside yourself that holds the unconditional bliss and happiness for you, okay? What you do with that in your life is a totally different thing. One person might become a painter, another person might become a garbage man, another person might become a seamstress. It doesn't matter. What you do is not what I am teaching. So when people come to a spiritual teacher and they say, what should I do with my life? What should I do? What should I do? This is not what a spiritual teacher teaches you. A spiritual teacher teaches you how to find the unconditional inside you, and then the guidance that comes through that will guide you to what should happen in your life on a moment-per-moment basis. And sometimes you might look like a hypocrite. One minute you're doing one thing that seems like the right thing, and then the next minute you're doing something else that seems like the right thing. And they might contradict each other, but they don't actually contradict in the heart, because the heart is aware of a much greater amount of energies and a much greater amount of intelligence that is factoring in a larger amount of information than your brain can. Okay? So, first things first, I had a person write in and say, what should I do? I'm in an abusive situation and it feels like hell. Should I stay or should I not? And I will say, I don't give a shit. What you do is up to you. I'm not here to tell you that you should be more spiritual and say namaste to everybody and no, I don't care. You do whatever you want, And I would say to you that if you are suffering and you keep on staying in the same situation, it's time to ask yourself, what suffering are you trying to avoid by staying in that situation? Most likely you're trying to avoid your own guilt, you're trying to avoid your own fear, you're trying to avoid your own opinion of yourself, that you're such a bad person. Perhaps you're trying to avoid your own shame and guilt and loneliness that might happen from a situation or a conflict that arises, okay? But see, I'm here on the spiritual path to say that you are not any of those things, and that any of those things must be transcended at some point on this spiritual journey. Otherwise, you will be forever enslaved by them. You will be constantly enslaved by these sufferings if you keep on listening to them. I feel guilty about this. Okay, I got to go here. I feel guilty about not going to the store on Thursday. Okay, I got to go to the store on Thursday. Guilt shouldn't drive your life. Fear shouldn't drive your life. Loneliness shouldn't drive your life. Love and truth should drive your life. And I'm not talking about the emotional love. I'm talking about the very detached, neutral love that is always inside you, the unconditional love, okay? So on the spiritual journey, you are looking for the unconditional guidance. You're not looking to be driven by suffering anymore, because you've been driven by suffering your whole life. And where has it led you? To more suffering. You feel guilty about this certain situation, so then you end up in this situation, and guess what? This situation is full of pain too, right? So the only way out of the matrix The only way out of that game is to no longer believe the suffering that is guiding your motives, to no longer believe the suffering that is guiding your movement and your action in your life. Okay? And then you become very surgical. Then you might be a very spiritual person, but you're having a fist fight with your neighbor, you know, and you don't know it at the time, but the fist fight leads that neighbor out of a life of drug addiction. You know, so I'm not saying that violence is a way of life, but I'm saying that violence is the way of nature, and it does happen. Things happen. There's no way of avoiding these types of things. There's no way of avoiding conflict on this level. And there's a lot of spiritual people that will say the right words, but these people are just as caught as you are. They're just as caught in suffering as you are. It's just that they're in a polite type of suffering, okay? So I'm teaching you how to get free of all of that. I'm teaching you how to find the place inside you that says, I want the truth. I don't want another paradigm to live by. I just want to know the truth inside me. And then trust in that intelligence that moves through you, even if other people don't understand it. Now, these types of videos I try not to make too often because they're too controversial, okay? There are a lot of people that live in fear, and they look around them and they say, okay, how can I come up with a bunch of rules to make sure everybody around me is convenient? You know, how can I make everybody act the way I want them to act because I'm so afraid that they might do something I don't like? Instead of actually transcending the pain that is inside me that says, oh, I'm afraid. So an enlightenment teacher, a real spiritual teacher, will not be telling you how to make the world according to some sort of plan. A real teacher will help you find the unconditional inside you and then trust what comes through that. So if you're in an abusive situation and you don't want to be there anymore, then don't. There's no rule that says you have to. And by not being there, then the child or the human being or the animal will no longer bite you, because they will learn the consequence of biting. And if they don't want to learn, that's up to them. But you don't have to stay around and get bitten. So you see what I'm saying? A lot of times people are suppressing the evolution of other beings around them because they're all playing a game of roles. If somebody comes and hits me with a stick, I will either leave, or I will make sure that I get that stick away from them, or I make sure that they cannot beat me with the stick, and I might get very creative with how I come up with a solution to that. Okay? So this doesn't make me less spiritual. This doesn't make me less me. This just means that I'm a survivor. That I'm here to exist, and I fight for my own existence as much as the next being will. This is the play. This is the dance that we are all in on this level, and there's no avoiding it. You know, people are all afraid of death on this planet, and now we've got the planet almost absolutely, totally overpopulated. And at some point, we'll have to deal with the issue of people fighting each other for food, or people fighting each other for space. You see, there's no avoiding it. There's no avoiding this death thing. And there's no avoiding the conflict, because that's what survival is about. It's about finding your internal bliss, the internal state that is here, at the same time as being very grounded and doing what is necessary to sustain this physical system. So again, should you stay in a situation that's abusive? I would say if you were already happy, you wouldn't be staying in that abusive situation if it was painful to you. You wouldn't roll around on a bonfire. You wouldn't stand in front of a firing squad. And you wouldn't stand in front of a boxer when he's throwing punches at your face if there was a happier alternative. So most of the time, suffering is driving your need to be in this abusive situation. Now, if you can be in this abusive situation and be in your bliss and be happy about it, if you can be happy about it, be fulfilled about it, or your truth is keeping you there, then I'd say stay in that situation, because it's not abusive to you, because you have learned to transcend that abuse or that energy. It's not affecting you, okay? You know, Mother Teresa wasn't suffering when she was amongst the people that needed her healing. She was in her bliss. She was sharing her heart. That's what she wanted to do. So this must also be your state. When you are in a situation, don't be there because of guilt. Be there because that's your happiness, and realize and own that decision that took you there. Don't be in a place where, oh, I'm a victim, I'm stuck here helping somebody, or I'm stuck in this abusive situation because I'm just a good person. Like, no, let go of all that. That's all your mind talking, that's not your heart. Okay? But if your heart keeps you there, if you can find a way to keep your heart there and be happy about that service that you're providing for that other human being, or the space you're providing, or whatever it is, if you are still able to find your bliss in that situation and it is not harmful to you in any sort of physical way, okay, then I'd say stay. But ultimately it's about freeing your heart in every situation and then trusting the heart's wisdom. It's not about right and wrong, it's about just how do you find your heart in each situation. And how you find the heart is you stop thinking and you receive what is there. And by receiving what is there, there will be a space that emerges. And in that space, there will be wisdom. And wisdom might keep you there, or wisdom might not. Wisdom might take you out that door. And each decision that comes from the heart will take into account the highest good for every individual in that situation. It's a holistic healing for everyone involved. It's a win-win, although it might not seem like a win-win at the time. So I hope this helps. Take care for now.